there's been a lot of rumours lately about a certain band called Queen. The rumours are that we're going to split up. What do you think? They're talking from here. But forget those rumours. We're going to stay together until we fucking will die, I'm sure.
There really wasn't much sex and, well, there wasn't much drugs. I don't think you'd be able to do that now, would you?
One man, one goal. One mission,
For that moment, we kind of owned the world.
Where's the modesty gone?
Well, there isn't any.
For reasons I never quite understood, a lot of the press took against them.
England doesn't really think we're that cool.
But I mean, I don't want some arsehole critic to tell me that.
You might as well sort of paint a target on your head and go, you shoot me.
I think when you go all the way up, the only place is to come down.
The controversy behind Sun City, wish I'd never heard of the place.
Whenever the band came under pressure, there would be a walkout, a separation, a row.
We were at a really crucial point. We might have had to break up.
The arguments were creative and then it would become personal. Of course.
Freddie took to the gay scene like David Attenborough making a wildlife program.
Just want to pack in as much of life and having a good time as much as I can.
London, the Imperial College of Science and Technology. Meeting place for space scientists from 50 nations. Specialists who will help develop the equipment which has taken mankind into the new age of space exploration.
We've got Brian May on guitar.
I was studying physics as an undergraduate here, but astronomy was always my thing. And so I did the astronomy postgraduate for a PhD. So here we have the main hall. In 1973, this is where Queen played, and this is really the first proper advertised gig we ever did, I would think. And it's certainly the first review we ever got by Rosemary Horide of what was then Disc.
From the very beginning, Freddie was absolutely remarkable for stagecraft. He had a presence unlike anything that I'd ever seen, and I'd been a music journalist for a long time.
Freddie, even from those days, had an ability to work an audience, and they would eat out of his hand.
He could actually turn his hand round like that and do that, and the audience would stand up.
I have sinned, dear Father, Father, I have sinned. Try and help me, Father, won't you let me in?
I think the first moment when I thought, my God, something's really happening here, people actually want to see us and they know what we're about.
When they came along, there had been a denim rock movement, if you like, with Status Quo, Uriah Heep. I just think Queen were an incredible breath of fresh air in rock music. They had brilliant songs. Freddie Mercury was an absolutely charismatic frontman. Brian May was just this brilliant guitarist, and Roger Taylor was a phenomenal drummer, and you had that guy that played bass.
We spent a couple of years looking for a bass player. We had several bass players. Very hard to find the right guy. And we found John.
Deacon John on bass.
So I came along in a way as a bit of an outsider at first. And it did take me quite a few years to sort of grow more into the group, you know, and find myself at, you know, at home, really.
Before we signed to a record label, we actually signed to Trident Productions, a management company run by the Sheffield brothers, who had their own studio right in the middle of Soho.
Recording our first album, we were all still just students finishing off our degrees.
We had to do it in what time was available because, you know, the studio was being booked up all the time. So we had to go in, you know, sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning and sometimes, you know, finishing at 6 in the morning. You know, all those sorts of weird times that nobody wanted.
You know, you could see the working girls at night through their lace curtains. So when we were mixing, we'd have a little bit of diversion. The album came out and sort of resoundingly crashed. Well, it really didn't do much.
Well, it's funny when you make your first album, you know, you go out into the record shops and you think, we're in the record stores now, you know, and you go in and say, have you got the new Queen album then? And they go, what? And it's a long haul.
We realised that really the easiest way of getting a hit album is to have a hit single that has some musical validity.
The key to that was the stroke that was pulled in getting them on top of the pops when Bowie dropped out, and it absolutely broke that single.
It was a very underwhelming experience the very first time because there was a strike on at the BBC. So it was shot in the Weather Studio.
It was great fun to be at Top of the Pops because it was sort of all happening. You felt like, you know, you were, in a sense, becoming part of public consciousness.
Top of the Pops was incredibly uncool. It was rubbish because nobody was actually playing. There was about 75 teenagers which were herded about the studio and a bunch of aging disc jockeys presenting it.
Pan's people were there, these very glamorous girls dancing, you know, it was a lot of fun.
The BBC actually had a set of plastic cymbals that went doop when you hit them, so they didn't make any noise. I think that sort of says it all, really.
I suppose it's true to say we had slightly mixed feelings about Top of the Pops because it wasn't very cool, but it was the great vehicle for selling records, so what can you say?
It had quite a big impact, I know, because our record went straight into the top 10. So obviously the impact was huge then.
We had this song called Seven Seas of Rhye, but it's a universal truth that more groups break up because of songwriting arguments than anything else in the world, because your songs are your babies.
The person who's written the song tends to be the one person who sees that one song all the way through, from the idea they have in their head at first, you know, the final production, you know, the sounds on everything and the mix.
Most of the time I have a clear picture of what I want, and I sort of have a lot of, say, Roger's parts and what Brian should do and things. There are rows, of course.
I've probably never spoken about this before, ever, but I remember the Seven Seas of Rhye thing. You know, it was Freddie's idea. He had this lovely little riff idea on the piano, and I think all the middle eight is stuff that I did, so we definitely worked on it together. But when it came to the album coming out, Freddie went, I wrote that. And we all went, okay. You know, because it didn't seem like that big a deal, but Freddie said, look, you know, I wrote the words, and it was my idea, so it's my song. The sort of unwritten law was the person who brought the song in would get the credit for writing that song and the money for writing that song. Much, much later in Queen history, we recognised this fact.
Here I stand, look around.
We were very lucky in that we hooked up with Mott the Hoople, and we were the warm-up act. And we went all around the UK with them, and it worked out just perfect. And then the guys from Mott said, would you like to do the same thing in America? after a few gigs, I started to feel weird and something was happening. I didn't know if it was my head or my body or whatever, you know, but I started to feel odd. And then I woke up one morning in Boston, which was going to be the climax of the tour. I woke up and looked at myself and I was yellow. And the doctor came around and said, "You've got hepatitis, you have to go home."
I still was amazed that we managed to shepherd him through the immigration queue at JFK in New York. Poor fella could hardly stand.
I was sort of taken on the plane, shoulder to shoulder.
We were devastated the tour had been cut short, you know, because it was our first trip to America. But we just sort of ploughed on in the studio without him.
It was a bit of a long haul back to health. I was just sort of getting over all this stuff, and I remember seeing Freddie batting out all these things, you know, and thinking, God, I have not got my shit together, you know, and really starting to worry about it.
She keeps a Moet Chandon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette.
Queen 1, Queen 2 were full-on rock albums, and I suppose it was only a question of time before they put some really clever melody into it. And Sheer Heart Attack was that breakout album. And a track like Killer Queen with Mercury's vocals have probably never been better.
She's a killer queen, gunpowder, gelatine, dynamite with a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind.
I do remember having a slight reservation about Killer Queen, and I remember thinking, are we kind of selling ourselves as something which has become very, very light? But every slice through that record is a perfect vision. There's lots of little things which visit once only, like the little bell of the cymbal.
In conversation, she spoke just like a baroness. Middleman from China went down to Geisha Minor. Then again, incidentally, me that way.
Killer Queen always felt a bit special. It was very sophisticated, and it was very Freddie.
As the albums have progressed, I mean, our sort of songwriting has progressed, and we sort of ventured into sort of different areas.
With a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind. Wanna try?
We were doing lots of major tours in Japan, America. We were headlining by now and doing very well, and selling loads and loads of records and not seeing any money.
What we decided to do was go with a production company rather than with a record company. And the deal was that we made the album for the production company. They sell it to a record company. In retrospect, it's probably the worst thing we ever did.
The deal that they were on just meant that they weren't going to make any money out of what they did. And the way it came to a head was with the song Death on Two Legs.
Suck my blood like a leech. You break the law and you breach. Screw my brain till it hurts. You're taking all my money and you want more.
They were living in, well, bedsits, and you know, I think Fred was the more comfortable. I think he had a living room and a bedroom.
Quite often, I would go to do an interview and I would buy a couple of bottles of wine, you know, on my expenses because they just didn't have any money.
We didn't expect instant riches or anything. We didn't get them either.
Roger is breaking sticks because he's hitting the drums pretty hard, and the management's going, we don't want you breaking any more sticks, you know, we can't afford to do that. And so we had no money.
One of the management group just bought a Rolls Royce, and we thought, hang on, there's something going on here.
It affected Freddie deeply, and Freddie got to the point where he said, look, I am not delivering any more music, I can't. Cut a long story short, we went with John Reid, who was Elton's incredibly successful manager at the time.
I remember saying, you go away and make the best record you can make, I'll take care of the business.
We had a good working relationship with John. He was very fiery and very feisty, but so were we. So we weren't scared of him.
It was the first night I'd gone out to dinner with Freddie. I said, Freddie, I'd just like to say to you, as I said to the other guys, I hope that you know that I'm gay and it's not a problem. And he put his knife and fork down and said, so am I. Well, Freddie, when I first met him, wasn't out to the band because he was struggling with his own sexuality anyway. And Freddie was from a very, very traditional Zoroastrian background, and I think his family considerations were probably paramount.
I remember when we went into the studio to make A Night at the Opera, it felt like make or break.
We were not only poor, but we were in debt. All the sound and lighting companies and the people that we worked with hadn't been paid. So we were at a really crucial point. We might have had to break up if that album hadn't done well. It was an expensive album, enormous complexity on there. Even looking at it now, I wonder how we did some of that stuff.
There was so much hunger there. We just had so much that we wanted to bring out. It was all sort of kept in, and so we had all kinds of songs, and Bohemian Rhapsody happened to be, it was basically like 3 songs that I wanted to put out, and I just put the 3 together.
I think the groundwork for a song like that was done at Ealing College. Well, Freddie had lots of bits of songs which we used to link together, and one of his bits was, I just referred to it as the cowboy song, and it went, Mama just killed a man.
Mama just killed a man.
The first thing I heard was Freddie playing Mama Just Killed a Man. You know, what do you think? Oh, it's killer. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Not knowing what was to come.
We ended up having to do it in 6 studios. Because they were using all these different studios, you didn't really know what was going on. You would have guitar parts in one studio and then vocal stuff in another. Freddie would just sort of like turn up in the morning and go, oh, I've got a few more Galileos, dear. We were going around all these different studios, and you were just hearing parts.
Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Lightning, very, very frightening me. Very frightening me.
The only person who had it in his head was Fred, and even then he was making some of it up, so we were going along.
I thought, I'm going to do exactly as I please.
Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me.
Do as many multi-layer harmonies as possible. You know, go well over the top.
It really was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, bet you can't do this, you know.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity.
But the record company, as a mass, came to us and said, don't do this. This thing is too long. Nobody's going to play it.
I played it to Elton John at the time, and he said, are you off your head? You'll never get that on the radio.
I just said it either goes out in its entirety or not at all.
And at the crucial moment, this young man called Kenny Everett came in and fell in love with the track, stole a copy of it, and played it on his radio show.
Kenny played it 14 times over the weekend. And of course, it was a smash.
And then following that up with what, to my mind, was the first ever real music video.
We will not let you go. Let him go. Bismillah. We will not let you go. Let him go. Bismillah.
I'd never seen anything like it, and I don't think anybody else had.
The video did take Queen to another level where they could really command the landscape.
Mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go.
Night at the Opera was that landmark album that established them as a major force. That clearly was the context in which you could do something like the Hyde Park concert.
Well, it was Richard Branson. And, you know, we think we can put you on in Hyde Park.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our picnic by the Serpentine.
I remember thinking, ooh, gulp, you know, we've carved out a place around the world, but England doesn't really think we're that cool. It was packed beyond belief. And it was really like coming home to a sort of hero's welcome.
Then when it came to make Day at the Races, we just thought, let's just do what we do.
The added ingredient in Day at the Races is this feeling of freedom we had. Because we had escaped the old situation, we'd sorted out the money side, we weren't in debt anymore, we weren't struggling for our very existence. So there's a great freedom and joy. It was almost like we were still making A Night at the Opera. We just loved it. We revelled in it.
Somebody be true.
Freddie came up with a magnificent little sort of foray into white gospel, if you want to call it that. And we really worked our harmonies on Somebody to Love.
Take a look at yourself in the mirror and cry.
Freddie's great inspiration for Somebody to Love was Aretha Franklin. He absolutely loved Aretha. Freddie would like to have been Aretha Franklin, actually, I think.
Somebody, somebody, ooh, somebody, somebody. Can anybody find me? Somebody to love.
From that point of view, okay, Bohemian Rhapsody, big hit. But I think a song like Somebody to Love is, in my estimation, a better sort of, from the writing aspect, a better song.
I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the day, I take home my heart of me. All on my own, tired out, my knees, my straight away. Till the tears run down from my eyes. Oh, somebody, somebody, ooh, somebody. Can anybody find me?
We were using the studio to its maximum capacity, painting a picture like on a huge canvas.
Find me somebody to love, find me somebody to love, find
We had a gift, really. We had three voices which really blended instantly.
somebody to love, find
Freddie had this wonderful, crystal, clear, sharp vocal sound.
me somebody to love, find me somebody to love.
Naturally, I've got the powerful high voice.
He's got the dog whistle pitch, you know, very high voice.
Somebody to love, find
And I had quite a sort of warm sound, I suppose.
somebody, 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 find me somebody to love. Can anybody find me?
Put the three together and you instantly have something which sounds very sort of Panavision.
Find me somebody to love. Find me.
To try and keep their attention, you've got to sort of really tempt them. Like, okay, you can have a little break, have a coffee and biscuits. And then while they're sort of in a good mood, grab them, you know, and do another sort of 50 million overdubs.
We used to call it the sausage factory in the end. Because we got good at it. We got so good at it, we could just bang them out, you know.
A Day at the Races, as the follow-up to Night at the Opera, was clearly, it had a hard act to follow. So people who wanted to have a go at Queen could quite readily say, it's not as good as the last one.
For reasons I never quite understood, a lot of the press took against them.
I think we realised that talking to the press gets you nowhere. You might as well sort of paint a target on your head and go, you shoot me.
Well, We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions had a very sort of definite genesis. The way I remember this story is Bingley Hall. We played this great hall in the Midlands and it was heaving. You know, those gigs that you love, it's all sweaty and hot, the atmosphere's great. Everybody's jumping up and down, making a noise. And what they were doing was singing along.
She's a killer queen, gunpowder guilty, dynamite with a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind.
In those days, it was really new, I have to tell you. You just didn't go to concerts where people sang to rock bands. But on this particular occasion, they didn't stop. And when we went off stage, they sang You'll Never Walk Alone to us. I think I'd gone to sleep thinking, well, what can an audience do? What could you ask them to do? They're all crammed in there. They can't do much, you know, but they can stamp their feet, they can clap their hands, and they can sing. So I woke up with We Will Rock You in my head. And we went into Wessex with these ideas, and that's what happened.
This area here was towards the middle of the main room, which is where the recording took place. And this is where all the bum chars for We Will Rock You was done.
There happened to be some boards lying around, strangely enough. And I thought, well, what does this sound like? And we multi-tracked it a lot of times to achieve a sound of a big throng of people stamping and clapping, a huge sort of rally of people.
We will rock you.
So I came up with We Will Rock You, and Freddie came up with We Are the Champions, and I think his thought process was very similar.
Basically, it is a participation thing. I've been very cold-blooded, and I'm just thinking in terms of public stroke group thing.
I paid my dues, time after time.
We had no idea it was going to become a sort of universal, worldwide sports anthem. Well, the two of them did, Rock You and Champions. In football or whatever sport you're playing, you've got two opposing teams, and both of them can sing We Are the Champions. But in a rock show, there's only one team.
It could be construed as a rather elitist thing. But it was really we, the collective we, you know,
But if I were you, before you find out, just get a sound on it. Just get like an overall sound on the drums.
It's definitely a song of great unifying power.
We are the champions, no time for losers. We are the champions.
Because here we've got four tracks of vocals, one with a solo guitar, and then that's got N-bit solo.
Well, listen to them, darling. That's the only way we can do it.
Fred was very cheeky, you know. I think, of course, it was about Queen being the champions in a sense as well, you know, the sort of arrogance for which we were famous.
We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
There it is. We are the champions. The current anchor position in the charts of number...
Only Queen could come up with the title We Are the Champions. I mean, where's the modesty gone?
Well, there isn't any. There's no modesty whatsoever. After the slaggings off what we get from the English music press, I mean, who cares? I mean, we've got nothing to lose now. Anyway, it's only a song, isn't it?
In those days, it was do the album, do a video, tour America.
It was regarded as a sort of grail of the rock scene. America was meaning more and more to us, and obviously when you sort of smell success in America, you go for it.
If you looked at what was going on in the States at the time, the music was very much dominated by the cool West Coast kind of rock with Eagles and Steely Dan and Fleetwood Mac. And to some extent, Queen, I guess, didn't fit that mould.
They were bigger, more glamorous, more extravagant than I think anything that existed in the States at the time. So they really didn't know what to make of them.
Why would you call your band Queen when there's obviously 4 guys in it? That was puzzling.
I remember we were all in one station wagon. Then we were all in one limo. Then it was 2 in one limo and 2 in another. And then it was 1 each. But it was really only because the sort of entourage grew. It wasn't anything to do with not wanting to talk to one another, you know.
We did stay pretty connected, you know. We didn't disappear to our dressing rooms. Generally, we sort of found a big place where we'd all get ready together and we would kind of joke around. We had a good kind of camaraderie.
This is called a miracle, folks. I've lost my shoe. What I don't do my own? Dave! Do.
I went to see the Queen show, and I'd never seen so much luggage and crew and amps and lighting. And I said, this is not rock and roll, this is a show, this is a production, this is Broadway.
The audience participation elevated the shows to something really special, and I think we put a bit of distance between us and some of our contemporaries like that, because it was such a great two-way event.
This was a coronation for Freddie Mercury in this town.
It had always surprised us that it took so long to break Queen in the States.
It sounds like it happened quickly, but it didn't. It happened over a period of about 8 years. We worked very hard at it. At no point did you think we've made it, because we hadn't.
What's happening when we go back to London? You're one of very few bands now that actually haven't left Britain.
We're sort of an English band in a way. We've always lived there. London particularly. We've always recorded in England.
It doesn't change the fact that the taxman still takes a lot of your money.
Because I think at the time we were paying 83%. And plus, if you had any money in the bank which was earning interest, another 15, which means 98% tax. So we decided to record the next album, which was jazz, in France.
So that's what we did. In a tiny little village called Super Bear, we started the process of making this album.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle.
Lots of sort of local colour got put onto that album.
I want to ride my bike.
We were sitting there and the Tour de France, the cycle race came through and inspired Freddie to write Bicycle. And for some strange reason, inspired me to write Fat Bottom Girls, although there might have been other inspirations there.
On your marks, get set, go!
Sadly, we weren't there for the filming, but I thought it was a hugely amusing idea.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle.
I remember the huge disappointment that none of us could be at the photo shoot because we were exiled from England, so we couldn't go back in to see it.
I don't think you'd be able to do that now, would you?
Yeah, I don't think we would go there these days. When it came time to launch the jazz album, we had the idea of having a massive party in New Orleans.
Oh, you gonna take me home tonight? Oh.
It was the so-called launch of that album. And we had lots of girls and things, and there was a band, a New Orleans band. It was a very, very over-the-top party.
Fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round.
We had a bit of a spiritual connection with New Orleans, and a lot of our friends came, of all sexes.
It was definitely fun. When I opened up the door of my suite, on the bed was a complete case of Dom Perignon, and then and it was downhill from there.
I remember I felt quite ill the next day.
The story about the dwarves with the cocaine being strapped to bowls to their head for people to help themselves to at a party is, I think, it's complete bollocks.
I don't know. I don't remember.
There was a man who, he was actually a person of restricted growth, who did lay under meats. He said, when asked what he did, he said, I lay under meats. And he's covered in sort of cold cuts and sort of chopped liver and stuff like that. And you couldn't see him. And so people would approach the trestle table, and as they just reached out to scoop their meat, he would just move like that. And that was his act.
Tonight, I'm gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive.
It wasn't a pretense. We actually did live the life of a rock band, sort of living on the edge in a sense.
Turning inside out, yeah. I'm floating around in ecstasy, so don't stop me now.
Don't Stop Me Now is a whole different trip, really. It's become one of the most popular Queen songs of all time.
The shooting star leaping through the sky like defying the laws of gravity. I'm a racing car passing by like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me. I'm burning through the sky.
It's a song of sort of unfettered joy.
I'm traveling at the speed of light. I'm gonna make a supersonic woman of you.
I mean, I've been quoted as saying that I don't like the track. I kind of do like the track, but I had mixed feelings because in a sense, it represented a sort of separatism. It was very much Freddie's world and reflecting what he was going through.
Freddie took to the gay scene in New York like David Attenborough making a wildlife program. He'd report on what he'd seen with that kind of hey attitude that he had. There was this one particular place called the Anvil, which seemed to have invented new uses for parts of the human anatomy. He was never shocked. He was eager to be involved in everything. It was like he was a social field worker.
Make a supersonic man out of you.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I just want to pack in as much of life and fun and having a good time as much as I can.
If you wanna have a good time, just give me a call. Don't stop me now. I'm having a good time. Don't stop me. Yes, I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at
The album Jazz was not a complete flop. It did get to number 6 in the chart. But Don't Stop Me Now, which is a big favorite in Britain to this day, but in America only got to the 80s. The review in Rolling Stone was notorious, and it shows you that Queen were not respected.
We were confused by that title. Why would a rock band call their album Jazz?
It had a couple of great tracks on it, but it had some sort of weaker stuff on it.
Queen was maybe viewed as the Indian meal that had gone cold in the refrigerator.
What's going to happen in '79 for Queen?
We're going to make more records, tour even more. I don't know, it's difficult to say. This has been our hardest working year.
We'd heard that there was this great studio called Musicland in Munich, and we heard that there's this great engineer called Mac, and we got into this rather kind of indulgent way of just bowling into the studio with no ideas, or very few ideas, and just doing it from scratch. You know, what you got? Well, I don't know, I've got this.
Fred did write the song in the bath in about 10 minutes.
And he said, get me a guitar. And he sat on the sofa and started the chords to Crazy Little Thing. And the next thing he said, right, tell them I'm coming over and we've got to go straight into the studio.
I was very quick, had everything set up in pretty much no time. And they put it down. And then the best bit was, quickly, let's finish it before Brian gets here, otherwise it takes a little longer.
That was the first #1 across the board in America. Billboard, Cashbox and Record World, I think.
We were still making the record. We hadn't even nearly finished the album. And we were going out in Munich. And somebody came up and said, oh, it's gone to #1 in America. And I was going, yeah, more drinks.
It's a Crazy Little Thing, completely cracked the charts in America. But it wasn't easy to find the follow-up. Play the Game charted outside the US Top 40. But the next single was something very different.
One of the things I always liked about Queen was that they were 4 individuals, all of whom brought something to the table, musically and in terms of songwriting, and that includes the bass player, John Deacon.
I'd always wanted to do something a little bit more that was more sort of
disco, which was very uncool at the time.
I mean, funk wasn't really in the vocabulary.
John was pulling us strongly in that direction, a sort of funky direction. And John got Roger to play with tape all over his drums, which is exactly what Roger hated. Roger hated his drums being made to sound dead.
I didn't really want to get into dance music. It wasn't my thing.
Another one bites the dust.
Freddie got deeply into it. Freddie sort of sang it until he bled, because he was so committed to making it sound the way John wanted it, which was like hardcore, I don't know what you would call it, but it's kind of more towards black music than white music.
Michael came to several shows, I think, at the Forum in LA, and he loved Freddie. And he kept saying, you guys, you've got to put that song out. And I wasn't particularly enamored with it, so I said, no, you're kidding, it's never a single.
Another one bites the dust.
Another One Bites the Dust was never seen as a single. I mean, it barely made it onto the album.
It got on the radio, and it got heard by people that didn't even know who the band was.
Strangely enough, the record became huge because of the black audience. There's one particular station in New York picked it up, thinking that we were a black band, and played the hell out of it, and it became a huge hit.
I was like #1 in 9 different charts. I mean, even in the country charts, you know, it's ridiculous.
And this thing just kept selling to around 3 million. It was in the Hot 100 for 31 weeks.
When an opponent would get knocked out in a boxing match, you'd hear Another One Bites the Dust used. It became an anthem of triumph.
I think it's still the biggest record we ever had.
I remember people pointing at the cars and saying, you guys are bad. And what does that mean? It means that mean you're good. If you're successful in America, basically you've made it.
We kind of became the biggest group in the world at that moment. You know, it's a fleeting moment because someone else will come and take over. But for that moment, we kind of owned the world.
Alô, amigos. Dentro de alguns minutos, vocês vão viver as emoções da primeira grande internacional do ano aqui no Brasil. A apresentação do conjunto Queen. Fred, how do you feel playing and singing before 200,000 people?
I haven't done it yet.
I can remember being nervous the first night. Top tier alone took 80,000, and we were in this sort of dugout, which I guess the football teams would normally be in, but all the windows were broken. And I remember thinking, this is, you know, it's going to take some balls to walk out there.
Hello, Sao Paulo!
They knew all the songs. I mean, these people don't speak English, but they could sing along all the Queen songs, so they're obviously very genuine fans, and they went nuts.
It also takes a certain ego and a certain drive to want to be in that spotlight and go on display. Yeah! And Freddie thrived and got better and bigger arenas.
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah, 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 yeah! Yeah, 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 yeah
Once we'd finished Argentina and Brazil, the band decided to go back into the studio. And they had, of course, bought the studios in Montreux here.
Mountain Studios was in the casino by the lake in Montreux. When they first arrived, it was like the top studio in Europe.
We're in this studio in Montreux, and David Bowie lives nearby. I think we went out for a meal or some drinks or something, and then landed up back in the studio with the sort of rough intention of doing something.
We were fooling around and just sort of jamming with tracks, and suddenly we said, why don't we just see what we can do on the spur of the moment.
Then, you know, there's the pressure of His Majesty David being there, and everybody wanted to look suave and, you know, quick with ideas and stuff.
Dickie, of course, came up with this riff, ding, 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 ding.
Bum, 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 da, da, da.
Ding, 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 ding.
He kept playing that over and over and over again.
And then we went for a pizza and he forgot it. It completely escaped his mind. We got back and I remembered it.
And of course, we're used to playing together. And now we have this other guy there who's also inputting.
David's idea to put all these clicks and claps, and then it just, the sort of track grew.
And by that time, David was very impassioned with it, and he had a vision in his head, I think, you know. It's quite a difficult process, and somebody has to back off, and actually I did back off, which is unusual for me.
Pressure, pushing down on me, pressing down on you, no man has fallen. Under pressure, that brings the building down, strips the family in two, puts people on streets.
For the vocals, one of them would be locked out and they're not allowed to hear what the other one sang. And they just sort of sang anything off the top of their heads.
Fred starts doing his bum, da-da-da, and, you know, his bits and pieces. And I see out of the corner of my eye, I see David sticking his head in, listening. Then Fred came down, David went up, and Freddie was quite impressed that he was counterpointing to what he did before.
It's about watching some good friends screaming, let me out.
And Fred said, you know, what do you make of this? And I said, well, it's kind of easy if you stand in the doorway and listening to what you're doing. And just Fred it in, what, you know.
The result is very good. But it was a difficult experience, I think. These people sort of pulling in different directions, in a sense.
Under pressure.
Under Pressure, David Bowie, the band, me. I don't think it mixed too well.
Pressure.
Shame, actually. It's, I thought it was fabulous. We could have done some incredible further things, actually.
Well, here we have a total change of life for all of us, really. We went back to Munich to do the next album, and really, I suppose, things started to go downhill. It's actually a rather grim place. It's a studio in the basement of a huge tower block, which is a hotel, and it's kind of depressing. A lot of people used to jump off the top of the building and kill themselves. Off that particular building. It was very well known for it. We didn't know that until we got there. So we started to go a bit nuts. I think less and less time was spent in the studio.
Get up about 3 o'clock and go and have breakfast. And then a bit of work would be done. And then you'd have dinner. And then one of the roadies would start mixing cocktails. And then other things would happen.
Give me.
I'm not saying cocaine and other drugs and loose women had anything to do with that at all. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Body, body. Give me.
It turned into a rather exhausting cycle, I think, in the end.
Don't talk, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk.
I don't know if I can say this. Yeah, I could probably say this. We all kind of got ourselves into deep trouble emotionally in Munich. And Freddie was no exception. You know, he got himself deep into emotional waters which he couldn't really handle and was very unhappy for some of the time. He was being sucked into places which really probably weren't good for him. And I think we all felt that. And we realised that he was kind of in some kind of danger.
I certainly saw the change in Freddie.
Don't talk.
In the club Heaven in 1983, I said to him, have you modified your behavior in light of the new disease, which as of yet did not have a name? And with the sweep of his arms in a theatrical fashion, he said, darling, my attitude is it. I'm doing everything with everybody.
If someone kept a chart of rock and roll royalty, Queen would have to be at the top. Now Queen is back on tour and perhaps up against their biggest challenge yet.
Now, most of you know that we got some new sounds out last week, and for what it's worth, we're gonna do a few songs in the funk black category, whatever you call it.
Record sales are not as strong as in the past, and that's left everyone wondering.
I don't like everything that we do. I like a lot of what we do, but I don't like everything. It depends on whatever the four individuals in the group, what sort of music they're into at the time and what songs they're writing. There might be a couple of songs come out that you really don't like very much. I could name a couple.
Well, Hot Space, in Queen terms, was pretty disastrous, really. It didn't appeal to some of the hardcore Queen fans who would turn up at concerts with banners saying disco sucks.
I mean, it's only a bloody record. People get so excited about these things. I mean,
The band, it was pretty much on the verge of falling apart.
The arguments were creative, and then it would become personal. Of course.
This is the hardest time for us. This is a big test. I mean, we've been in the business 12 years, and to keep it going that much further is hard.
The Works was the next album. We thought we wanted somewhere nice and warm and not freezing bloody cold Munich. So that really made sense to go to LA to make that record. And I think we got back on track in the Works, actually.
They were a complicated musical marriage. They didn't have just one room in a studio, they had 3 or 4, you know.
Studio B, Studio C, Studio D, Studio E.
But really that was a good thing because it allowed everybody to work on their individual songs.
In the early days, it was Brian and Freddie who really used to write most of the material, but over the last sort of, 5 years, and Roger and I have started to contribute more.
It was a Sunday afternoon. My son Felix came in, he was very young, and he just sort of went, radio, caca, because he's half French. And so I just thought, it's quite nice, Sort of put the backing track together and then sort of presented it to Freddie, who really loved it.
We took it into the next room and then Fred and I worked on the vocoder parts,
all we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo.
Radio Gaga.
If you listen several times, it says Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga brought Queen back.
It came from more of a rock thing. Radio Gaga combined the best elements of the 70s with the 80s, and that's where I think Queen had a strength with the Works.
Was more of a substantial hit, even though it didn't actually make the top 10 in America. But it got played a lot, and the video made a big impact.
Let's hope you never leave our friend like all good things on you to prayer. So stick around.
We had a killer video, which we put a lot of work into. And the whole thing just felt good, and it felt of its time, it felt a bit different, it felt modern, and it was very fresh.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
All of a sudden, people would participate jointly in Radio Gaga situations. Collective statement that was good on the radio or on a turntable. In live, it really was a unification.
Freddie said, what we do is like the Olympics. It's people believing in you and everyone behind you and everyone doing the same thing together. That's Olympics. And he said, that's what we do.
Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga.
Suddenly, the MTV generation grew up and video became all important.
The most enjoyable video was I Want to Break Free, because we just laughed.
I was dying to dress up in drag, doesn't everybody? And everybody ran into their frocks quicker than anything. It was their idea, basically, and I said, yeah, let's have a go.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free from your lies.
That great video was a loving reference to Coronation Street.
I've got to break free.
Of course, people didn't understand that in America. It just looked like we wanted to dress up in drag.
God knows.
Yeah, it was unthinkable to most of Middle America.
To break free.
It's a particularly British thing, and sometimes the humor doesn't translate. I'm Canadian, so I get it. It was just a different style of humor, and I don't think it went over with the MTV generation.
I remember this video being banned. MTV, we were very quick on the trigger to ban things then. I mean, if you thought Mary Whitehouse was bad, you should have seen or known some of the geezers running MTV in the very early 80s.
Well, MTV were very narrow-minded. It was Whitesnake and f***ing Whitesnake, and then another Whitesnake track. And they decided they didn't think that Men in Drag was rock enough, I guess, and so they didn't play the video.
Most Americans were deprived of my and Freddie's favorite moment of that video. I said to Freddie, you know, I just love the way you double-step
But life still goes on.
to get from one room to the other.
I can't get
And he said, oh, I'm so glad you noticed it. That's my favorite part.
without you by my side. I don't want to live alone. Hey, God knows. Got to make
Funny thing is, we became global, but we lost America. And we kind of never got it back.
I've got to break free.
Freddie wouldn't go back to tour America unless they were touring a hit. And of course, that's the chicken and egg, because the less you tour America, the more you lose America.
Sad. It's a shame, because there's a whole catalogue of hits, which are sort of worldwide hits, but not in the States. And that will never come back.
Appearing at Sun City never helped anybody's image, and sometimes it hurt. Sun City was this resort of international standard in South Africa, and the position taken by most of the rock community was that if you went to South Africa, you were supporting apartheid.
Well, it's nice. It's really nice to be here in South Africa, and I just want to have a good time.
Anything you'd like to say to your South African fans?
Yeah, we hope you get real excited, and because we're pretty excited to be here.
The controversy behind Sun City. Sun city, which I'd never heard of the place.
The principal reason that Queen went there, undoubtedly, was because they offered a very large amount of money.
And there was all sorts of hoo-ha going on. You know, you mustn't play Sun City because it's a sign that you're supporting apartheid. Well, it's simply not true. If you adopted a policy of never playing in a country where you don't approve of the politicians, there would really be very few places you can play.
Did you know that you had so many fans in South Africa?
Well, I think we had some idea that of our popularity here, but we didn't realise it was quite that.
Jim went down there time after time, and I said, Jim, are we going to play to mixed audiences? The answer is yes. You know, we're not going to play to segregated audiences.
And it was not an apartheid audience, but it was mainly white.
Going to the concert?
Yeah, definitely.
What have you heard about them?
I've heard it's a great show.
What are you expecting at the concert?
Oh, something fantastic. I've heard it's the most fantastic show ever.
The band then supported a school for the deaf in Bophuthatswana that we became very involved with.
The general audience doesn't read the small print. It just sees the headlines. And if it goes, you're making a lot of money playing a gig in South Africa, an apartheid state, it makes it look like you're supporting apartheid. It did not help them.
I will say to my dying day that we acted properly according to our conscience as regards South Africa. We went there to play music the same as we did all kinds of other places.
We got so much shit for it, but we went for good reasons. But on balance, I think it was a mistake to go.
Whenever the band came under pressure, there would be maybe a walkout, a separation, a row.
Well, tomorrow, the pop world's greatest extravaganza, as we've been talking all morning, Live Aid, will be bringing together rock's brightest and best from both sides of the Atlantic, and all performing for free in the hope of raising millions for the starving people of Africa.
You know, looking back, there was a moment when Queen were thought of as a good group that was predominantly historic. Radio Gaga was their one big hit in 4 years. They weren't on a hot streak. And they weren't a particularly productive group at that time. There was a feeling that maybe that was it. But Geldof ordered them to regroup and perform.
The thing was, did Fred want to do it? You know, because Fred wasn't that keen.
You know, I think Freddie was a bit reticent about doing anything. But Bob came in one day when we had talked about the Live Aid thing, and he said, I told Freddie he's doing it. And I kind of believe him.
It really is a gathering of the rock world elite, and already rehearsing in here are some of rock and roll's royalty.
It was rehearsed quite intensely at the Shaw Theatre on Euston Road.
Queen took the responsibility more professionally than anyone else on the bill.
I went out and bought these big plastic white clocks and put them sort of in the orchestra pit so we could see the time.
There was an 18-minute slot that each artist had, and there were traffic lights at the side of the stage, and you were warned when you walked on that the traffic lights, you know, after 16 minutes would turn amber from green. And he said you won't see them turn red because the power goes off.
So you make it quick, and you make it something they know.
They set the level for the PA with limiters. And then when Queen came on, Tripp, who was Queen's sound engineer, switched the limiters so that Queen would be louder.
You know, from the word go, he came out of the traps like a champion.
Freddie performed against the advice of his doctor because of a throat condition. But he went out there and gave one of the greatest live television performances ever.
You don't waste no time at all. Don't hear the bell, but you answer the call. Comes to you as to us tall, yeah. And it's time for the hammer to fall.
The ballet with a BBC cameraman was shockingly charismatic.
Every night, every day, a little piece of you is falling away. Lift your eyes, the western wave.
And it was as if all the artists backstage had heard a dog whistle. And their heads turned. And the frisson you felt was, they're stealing the show.
I've paid my dues, time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've hit my shell, sadness in my past, but I've come through. We are champions, my friend.
I defy anybody who saw it not to have goose pimples in the back of their neck when you saw that sea of people.
I remember looking up and seeing the whole place going completely bonkers in unison and thinking, oh, this is going well.
We did have an unfair advantage. We had done football stadiums. Freddie particularly learned this magical way of involving everybody. In a huge football stadium, he could make everybody feel that they were in contact.
People say, was it a career move? Well, no, it wasn't a career move. But of course that's in the back of everybody's mind.
To have conquered Live Aid in that way undoubtedly breathed fresh energy into the band.
It was a shot in the arm. And we went back in the studio. Of course, we were back in Munich with all its attendant dangers. So we tried to keep ourselves in the studio as much as possible.
One man, one goal. One mission, one heart.
I had a page, a sort of poem that was sort of half nicked off Martin Luther King's famous speech.
It doesn't fit this. One goddamn decision.
Real decision, maybe.
No, it won't fit.
It was all about one this and one that.
One gun, one soul, make one decision.
Sentence there.
Make one decision. Or make one true religion. One God, one vision. One man, one goal, one true religion. One dumb, one turd to teach John Deacon. Whoa, 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 give me one vision.
Well, the Magic Tour was the biggest tour we'd ever undertaken.
No wrong, no right. I'm gonna tell you there's no black and no white.
We planned an entire tour of stadium gigs.
No stay. All we need is one worldwide vision. One place.
Massive shows all over Europe and really fantastic reception. We hit another level.
I think we were finally in the place where we'd always dreamed of being, perhaps.
I had a dream when I was young. A dream, sweet illusion.
That tour had gigs like Budapest in it, which in itself was a great thing.
And visions of
Budapest is the first stadium concert behind the Iron Curtain. People hitchhiked from all over Eastern Europe.
It was a great tour, and of course it ended up at 2 nights at Wembley.
In the addition to Wembley Stadium, we put on an extra one because it sold out so quick, the 2 nights, and we put Nebworth on.
They were our final shows with Freddie, and I remember it being pretty much perfect. I just got the vibe from Freddie. He felt that he wasn't maybe able to do anymore.
I know there'll be a time where I can't run around on stage because it'll be ridiculous, you know. And I know when there comes a time when you have to stop.
I think he had an idea that he might not be terribly well.
Freddie told me that he was HIV positive before he told the band. And this put me in a very difficult position because he told me he didn't want me to tell the band. So there was I managing a band, knowing something obviously of crucial importance to the band, which I couldn't pass on to them.
Every drop of rain that falls in Sahara Desert says it all. It's a miracle. All God's creations, great and small, the Golden Gate and the Taj Mahal, that's a miracle. There's two babies being born, mothers, fathers, dead and gone, it's a miracle.
There was all these rumours, and he was obviously suffering, and we didn't know what it was, and rumour. And so he did sit us down at one point, and he said, look, you probably know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm suffering from. You know what the problem is, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to make music till the day I die, and let's get on with it. These are some of our best studio times. We've made the decision that all the songs we write will be credited to all of us, so it kind of releases a bit of positive energy in us.
They became closer and closer without any doubt at all, and the sharing of writing credits was a major breakthrough.
Some magical things happened, I think. You know, there's this track called The Miracle itself, which I think is one of Freddie's most beautiful creations.
The one thing we're all waiting for is peace on earth and an end to war.
I love the track. It's all so optimistic about the world and the miracles that are being found in the world. Which is incredible when you think what he's looking at, because he knows what he's got and he knows what the prognosis is.
Special award for an outstanding contribution to British music goes to John Deacon, Brian May, Freddie Mercury, Roger Taylor, Queen.
The first indications that something wasn't right was Freddie looked a little thinner to me. And I called John up to see what was going on. I said, is something wrong with Freddie? And he wouldn't tell me.
The thing that annoyed me more than anything was a shot of Freddie in the sun. And he'd just come out of the doctor's, I think. And it was really grainy, full-page shot. Is this man dying? I thought, you f***ing wankers.
We hid everything, and we avoided questions. I guess we lied because we wanted to protect him.
I would then say anything to anybody, you know. Is Fred sick? Absolutely not. No, he was in the gym yesterday. You know, you know, none of your business.
everybody had to draw the wagons around. Because at that time, to become ill was to have a death sentence.
Today the headlines, tomorrow hard times, and no one ever really knows the truth from the lie.
His house was surrounded by, I don't know, a couple of hundred, I reckon. It's just like vultures, really. It was utterly shocking, you know, filming the groceries in the back of the car boot. You know. Any medicine in there, you know, it's you know, absolutely shocking.
It became difficult to work in London because there was such a terrible focus of attention on him. There's people sticking cameras through his toilet windows and stuff, you know, as soon as the rumours were out there. So Montreux was a much more peaceful place to work, so we ended up doing a lot of stuff there.
Freddie felt much safer there because people didn't bother, you know, they weren't intrusively observing him.
At that point, we can't play live, but in the things that we're doing, it's business as usual.
I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad.
He was determined to work right up to the last minute. So I was surprised that he did Going Slightly Mad, which I thought was a good video, actually, and it had lots of humour in it.
I'm slightly mad.
There's a lot more humour in Freddie than I think the general public realised.
He won't take it.
No, Oh, what's he doing? Roger, what did you do?
It was just really a very close time.
Go for me, yeah.
Freddie found an amazing tranquility, and I never really heard him complain. I remember we went out one night and he had horrible problems with his leg. And I think Freddie saw me looking at it and he said, "Oh, Brian, do you want to see what it's like?" And he showed me. And he reacted to my face and he said, "I'm really sorry." He said, "I didn't mean to do that to you." I never heard him go, "This is really awful. My life is shit. You know, I'm going to die." Never, 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 never. He was an amazingly strong person.
The sicker Freddie got, the more he seemed to need to record to give himself something to do, you know, some sort of reason to get up. And he would make it in whenever he could. So it was quite a period of fairly intense work, actually.
You know, Freddie's becoming weakened by this horrible disease and he finds it hard to stand up a lot of the time. But he'll throw a couple of vodkas down and he would prop himself up on the mixing desk and have his mic there and go for it.
Roll camera, roll playback. Sometimes I get to feeling I was back in the old days, long ago.
I can hear the voices getting thinner.
Things seem so perfect, you know.
I think you can really tell that it's an ailing voice. Although he hits the notes, you know.
The sun was always shining, we just lived for fun. Sometimes it's...
Roger started off writing These Are the Days of Our Lives about his kids and the way he felt about life and how it comes back. But of course, in that context, it had another meaning.
Those were the days of our lives.
He looked so ill, it was quite scary. And I thought that was a very brave thing to do, and why not, you know?
He spent hours and hours and hours in makeup, sorting himself out so that it would be okay.
Those days are all gone now, but one thing is...
I did too many movements.
I think so too.
But I just wanted to see...
No, I know, I'm just putting my hand.
I still love you.
Again, the
I just want to
chorus.
see this. It doesn't
Am I
look...
crying?
It doesn't look... I think it should be wasted. Do you know what I mean? I want a little bit of shape. I'll tighten it.
Yeah, I like this shape now.
Those days are all gone now, but one thing's still true. When I look,
Freddie actually kind of says a goodbye in that song.
I still love you.
I went to see Freddie, and it was in fact the last time that I saw him. He said to me, I haven't given you anything in my will. You're my executor. You can do anything with my legacy. You can do anything with my music, but never make me boring.
The last time I saw Freddie was Anita and I went round to see him, and he was in bed with the curtains open so he could see out into his garden. I think I was talking about things that were in his garden, saying, oh, look, that's really interesting, that's really... And he said, guys, you don't need to feel like you need to make conversation. He said, you know, I'm just so happy that you're here, you know, so even if we say nothing, it's just having these moments.
The worst thing was I was actually on my way to see him, and I was about 300 yards away when Peter Freestone rang me to tell me don't bother coming because he's gone.
It was me who wrote the little epitaph that's on his statue in Montreux, which just says Freddie Mercury, lover of life, singer of songs. To me, that sums him up because he lived life to the full, there's no question, with all that entailed. He was a generous man, a kind man, an impatient man sometimes, but utterly dedicated to what he felt was important, which was making music. We made the announcement that we were going to do a tribute concert to him when we felt that we could, to send him out in the style which he deserved.
We hope that a lot of you will be able to join us on April the 20th at Wembley Stadium for a celebration of Freddie's life and career. You're all welcome. Please join us. So we drew up a list of people that we'd like to be on the show.
Roger got the ball rolling. Roger got up one morning and said, look, we're doing this, right? And made a few phone calls.
And Brian said, well, if you can get that lot, I'll come.
Got a date, Wembley Stadium. Had to be Wembley Stadium, didn't it? Had to be. The scene of Freddie's greatest triumphs. A lot of amazing things happened.
And I'd like to offer something in a very simple fashion.
David Bowie spontaneously went into the Lord's Prayer, which was a surprise to us all.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Right. God bless Queen. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.
Want to hear every single person? See every single pair of hands. 3, 4. Somebody to love. Somebody to love.
It was completely cathartic. It was like working out a bit of grief in a way.
And I remember just as we were coming off, Joe Elliott from Def Leppard put his hand on my arm. He said, "Stop, Brian." He said, "Just turn around and look at that audience and remember this moment, you know. Nothing like this will ever happen again."
The incredible thing is, it's 40 years since the band was formed. The band is probably as big as it's ever been. And yet 20 of those 40 years have been without Freddie.
We don't have John either, because John's chosen to be in a very different place. So for Roger and I, there is always that searching. What's lurking in the wings was all the material we'd done with Freddie, which was unfinished, and what were we going to do with this? Would we manage to make an album with it?
Made in Heaven was obviously different. It was very weird working with Freddie's voice coming out of the speakers. But Brian and I felt that we knew what Freddie would have been thinking. So we sort of got there, and I was very pleased with the result.
I feel like it was the right completion. It's the right album to finish up on. Once you've passed your initiation into being a rock star, it never leaves you. You cannot really stop having that feeling inside you that makes you want to play.
When we did the Paul Rodgers tour, it was great, actually. Paul's a great singer, completely different. It constantly amazes me to think that we were lucky enough to be in a great band, to have a great band together, and that actually people still like the music, you know.
Queen is such a stimulating, creative environment. There is really nothing quite that could live up to that. There was a perfect, creative hothouse that was Queen at its best.
One dream, one soul, one